Thank you, Thomas, for that kind introduction and for the past colleagues you represented. Not only speaking today as a speaker, but also here to learn from all of the speakers and all of the conversation that we're about to have. I found it quite inspiring. I'm already inspired, and it's really setting me up, hyping me up for the presentation. Although I apologize in advance that I do not have any presentation to share, I would just like to share for what I have to share, which is coming from my experiences and what I feel that is really true to my heart. I really really have to emphasize the thanks to the colleagues who really hit the nail on the coffin and explaining especially the root causes of climate injustice. And just to give an example of the mantra that Beatrice has raised, that those who are paying for most of the problem of climate injustice, we control like a fraction of we contribute fraction of the worst that we are facing on climate injustice. So I would like to draw it to the experiences we have in Solomon Islands in the context of adaptation. So Solomon Islands is an archipelagic nation. It's based in the South Pacific, a bit in the same region as Haley's region, but we are located in the South. We are although a small nation, we have, as an archipelagic nation, we have almost 900 islands. So therefore, you can really understand how difficult it might be in terms of logistically dealing with adaptation. And of course, it bears with these logistical issues, it also comes with a hefty cost, which as a developing country, we do not often have the extra money in the coffers to fund for adaptation. So hence that coming back to the issue of we are paying for this, even we already budget constraints and we're paying for more expensive means to have more adaptation in our communities. So this can be issues like when you're transporting resources for adaptations or materials in outer communities, which the majority of the population resides, that can be quite difficult. Even more so, communities are a bit under capacity, not in terms of other things, but focusing on just handling the modern way we deal with things like administrative, even small issues like that. It's a bit quite difficult at times. And often governments are very stretched in their capacity to support local communities that are very isolated in some of them. So this is very difficult in also as well for communities to access finance, technology, and other capacity building resources that they might need. Although they do very much best on their own in trying to find coping strategies and adaptive measures using their traditional knowledge, as well as whatever means they can gain in terms of reducing or reducing the adverse effects of climate change, taking the toll in our communities, environment, and in their own livelihood. So in terms of, as we all know, climate change, as it continues to exacerbate, it not only destroys the environment, it also really pushes to the limitation of our resilience. So, and communities at times, it's very difficult for them to, although receiving adaptation to help the communities better build the resilience, it's always been project-based largely and a very piecemeal. So it's not because it's very expensive, as I highlighted. So building seawalls, raising awareness, mangrove plantation, improving our infrastructure, those can be very difficult for local communities to sustain in a program way. So therefore, this is one big challenge that we're facing. And already with these challenges, we know that adaptation is only, wherever adaptation couldn't cover, the issues such as loss and damage comes in. So with addressing loss and damage, we're looking at damage and loss that are irreparable, or we cannot recover from what the damages are. Like adaptation, we can still try to save things as they are, but with loss and damage, these things are permanently lost, like the loss of culture, loss of our lands due to sea level rise and inundation. So this is an issue, again, coming back to finance and where are we getting the finance to compensate for these losses and damages. So at COP, as we all seen, we did not manage to get a successful facility to add on the additional finance for loss and damage, despite we've been, for the Pacific Island nations and other small island nations around the world, we've been advocating for this since 1990s. And on that note, not just now because of no responses, concrete responses to this, not only the Pacific, but elsewhere in the world, largely in the global South countries, we experience a lot of loss and damage. For Solomon Islands, as we see, adaptation at this stage is already expensive, but we can see that will be more expensive in the future. You see that from in the period of 1947 to 2014, so we're looking at statistics and maps. It shows the severe retreat in our islands, shorelines. Remember, just last year we went to film some climate work in the communities, and the filmer was like very excited because he's taking the project to his home, his village, and he's having a place in his mind that this is the place we're going to film. When we arrived there, almost half of the place is like completely indunated underwater, and it was really shocking to him and all of us. We have already lost 5 islands with almost around of 8 to 11 millimeter rise per year. It's really concerning in a sense that we're starting to see cases of adaptation, communities starting to relocate due to the overwhelming pressure from sea level rise and associated climate impacts with it. So in terms of responding to all of these problems that we have, the solutions that we're seeing on climate adaptation is similar like elsewhere in the world. Communities, young people in Solomon Islands often take up the rise to the fore in their changing environments, and of course very deeply concerned in responding. Young people try doing the best efforts, try to support ongoing efforts such as replantation, building seawalls, and growing more resilient food. And in some cases, you can see relocation as well. Civil society and governments also do a lot of efforts in this. Government has been working this for a very long time already, but it's just, to me personally, I'm just seeing just in 2019 that climate networks have been setting up locally, civil society coming together and collaboratively working to expand more adaptation initiative through our local civil society networks. And also together, civil society and young people work to influence policy making, to improve policy making and implementing projects in communities. But as I've said, this is very a piecemeal approach that is really somehow, although we're doing the best in the capacity, it can be quite overwhelming. But nevertheless, it's better than nothing for what we're facing on climate change impacts on the ground. Also, the civil society prepare young people as well, try to build the capacity so that they can also try to advocate this in the upper level. So we're doing this in raising the issues in the UNFCCC conferences on many of the issues of adaptation. So I think one lesson to take away from this that I've done is that I believe the right mindset, we can really achieve climate adaptation. I think the best mindset that we can have in approaches to climate adaptation is really long-term thinking. So when we do I act in scenarios where do I act when sea level reaches, when the sea reaches 50 meters inland and then I act, or do I act now and start investing in solutions that can alleviate this? So this is some things that I've highlighted. Unfortunately, I don't think I have much time now. I would like to say more on my final messages, but I will just stop there. Thank you, Thomas.